Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. As always, I'm Ari here with Korea. We had some, interesting action in yesterday's slate that we'll get right into with a recap from our best bets from yesterday. So we'll get off into your best bets, Korea, with your recap from Thursday.
Yeah, obviously, I'll start in college football. A nice little one-on-one day. Well, first off, I did not know that Riley Leonard was not going to be starting for Duke. That would have been well prior knowledge. But they did. They won. I would have taken them on the money line, but the fact that line was growing and growing, and then obviously they made the announcement that Loftus was coming in, and they only won by 3. So that was just a bad read on my part. I'll take the blame, but Texas Tech was a good read. Everyone was hammering TCU +3. I saw all the cappers. I was like, oh yeah, TCU's covering, right? I bet they are. Like I said, great play. This is not the same TCU team that we've seen in the past in terms of that team that went all the way to the championship last year, the national championship, and this Texas Tech team. It was a rivalry game, and obviously there is some conspiracy about the dead possum on the field, and the last time we saw an animal on the field between those two, I think it was all the way back in like the early 2000s. That was the last time Texas Tech won, and Texas Tech won last night, so maybe some natural animals are the way for Texas Tech to win at home. But that was a one-on-one day. In terms of my props, look, we're gonna take that. Obviously Deontay Johnson, that was a little sweaty, just because like I said, it was a pretty ugly game. But then obviously he got his 5th reception, and I was like, okay, yeah, he's definitely back. So great to see. That was a great win. Kenny Pickett, oh my gosh, we were so close. Oh my gosh, we were so close, because I remember I was seeing that drive and I was looking at how many pass attempts. I was like, all we need is 6 throws. All we need was 6 throws. That's all we needed. And he ended with 30. Tough line, but like I said, I knew he was going to throw the ball a lot more. I did not expect, like Najee and I guess Jalen Warren to kind of have a decent ground game for the Steelers. So that was, I guess, an unexpected surprise to see. So, for all you Najee Harris fantasy owners out there, great to see him finally have some decent production on the field. But, it was just a little bit of a short loss for Kenny Pickett. I'm not taking that as a bad loss. I think it was just, if there were, two plays that were, instead of a run play, a pass play, that could have made the difference. So I'm not gonna take that as a tough loss. I'm gonna take it as a tough loss, but it's whatever. And then Will Levis, obviously, we knew he was going to get picked. we knew he was going to get picked. It took a little while, but it did come eventually. But as Ari was mentioned earlier, I did have a 4th play. I just found that Will Levis line so juiced. I did pair it with Jalen Warren to get over 2.5 receptions. That was a little like same game parlay I had on Twitter for you guys, and so that did cash Jalen Warren. That was super free. We were just waiting for that Will Levis interception, and that cash. So alongside that, we'll take a nice 3-in-1 day in the NFL. With just a close line for Kenny Pickett. I saw his line potentially go all the way down to 30, and then all the way down to 29, and then back up to 30. And so I was hoping maybe we could get to 32. I knew it was a little bit of gamble, but obviously that was a tough loss. And then obviously 1-on-1 day in college football. Obviously Duke, tough loss in terms of the spread. We didn't know. Well, I didn't know, that Riley Leonard was not playing. And then obviously Texas Tech, that was sweaty for a little bit. Obviously it was a great start, and then TCU came roaring back, and then Texas Tech got that interception, and then they just opened up the lead, and it was pretty much sweat free from there. So not too bad of a day for college football in the NFL. We'll take a 3-in-1 day in the NFL, and then a 1-on-1 day in college football. Overall, 4-and-2 day for my picks yesterday. If you count, the Jalen Warren one. So 3-and-2 or 4-and-2, either one you want to count. It's still positive. We'll take that. Ari, we'll get into yours. From yesterday, obviously you had the NBA along with some NFL props. What were your? How do you feel you did yesterday? Obviously, Derrick Henry, was a little sweaty, but can't complain. Ari, I know it's somewhere back there. You want to get that broom out for us, for a nice 3-0 day.
Yeah, I mean, both Henry props were quite sweaty. I mean, Henry, he had the kind of the big drive towards the end of the first half. They got him to 45 yards rushing at halftime, and I thought at that point he was going to get 80, 90 easily. And then, out of half, the Titans, I think they went 3-0, I believe, or maybe they had one first down, but they had a quick drive. And the Steelers had like an 8-minute drive or something that like takes off like the whole clock of the third quarter. So at that point, I got a little bit nervous, but Henry, he had 75 yards rushing, so he didn't have the day I was expecting him to have, but he still hit his original line. And then the receiving, he had 2 catches for 4 yards, and then he had the one catch where I think Levis didn't see his blind side, and so he thought he had Henry, for an easy catch, and he gets hit as he's throwing to Henry, and Henry tips it in the air with one hand and catches it, takes it for 20 yards receiving. So that alone hit, obviously, the 11.5 receiving line. So that was a nice, 2 plays on Derrick Henry in that one. And the Magic, it was back and forth in the second half with Utah. They looked good in the first half. The Magic, they were up, I think, 8 at halftime. Second half was back and forth. Jazz took a lead with like 14 seconds left. And then the Magic took the lead. I think it was Paolo who had the eventual game winner, if I'm not mistaken. He had his best game of the season. He had 30 points, so he finally emerged after a pretty slow start, at least offensively for him. But I mean, it was back and forth. We saw Markkanen have some big. I think he had like 2 big threes late in the last couple of minutes to get Utah back in the game. But ultimately, Magic prevailed. So yeah, a nice 3-0 night for me last night.
Yeah, obviously, you can't complain on a nice 3-0 night, get the brooms out. I saw Derrick Henry line go up a little more as the day went on. So, if you did take it, above 75, I'm sorry, that's a tough beat. But,
obviously. Did it bump up 4 yards before?
It was going – I saw it throughout the day. It was going up to 72, and then it went up to 74. And I think I saw some books as high as 75 or 76. So, his line was definitely going up on some other books. So great to see where you got it at 71.5. That was, obviously a little sweaty at first, but he finished with 75. So that was, obviously a great win there. And you mentioned the Derrick Henry, receiving line. It was, he had 2 catches for 4 yards. And then obviously that circus catch that he ran up for 20 yards. You can't really complain. And then obviously a little bit of a sweaty win, but obviously the Magic get the job done on the road. Obviously, you mentioned Paolo Banchero, obviously Seattle native, getting the job done for us in the end and for you as well. So obviously 3-0 day for you. Perfect. That's what we love to do. Get out the brooms. That's what we were striving for. Finally got our first 3-0 day. Thanks, Ari. Congratulations to you there. But obviously we are going to now get into our weekend coming up. But obviously I do want to do a quick recap first of the ladder challenge that I did yesterday. Obviously, there were 3 guys that I had to surpass their points. It was Colin Sexton, who had 10, and he exactly had 10. It was very sweaty, but he got there. And then we had Kelly Oubre. He needed 12. He got 23. I was like, hallelujah. And then Kelvin Johnson. He just couldn't shoot the ball well, and and it was kind of a negative game script for him, I'd say. Obviously, it was the Victor Wembanyama show last night. He had 38 and 10. It was all kind of that, even in that Spurs route, even though obviously the Suns made a little bit of a comeback near the end, obviously up by 20 at half. But, obviously that's a tough break on our first day of the ladder challenge, just one guy short. But, we're coming back today. We already have today's posted on Twitter, but I'll do a quick summary for you guys right now. The first leg is going to be Jonathan Kuminga. We're taking his alt at 8+. I think that he can get 8+ points tonight against the Thunder team. Obviously missing SGA, and obviously it's not really a big game but it's the kickoff of the in-season tournament tonight. So and then obviously the way that the Warriors have been using Kuminga, he has been circumferencing 8+ in every game this year, even though it's only been 5. I do like him to get 8. And then also second leg number 2 is Mikal Bridges. We like him to get 15+. It's a very, very super juice line on DraftKings right now, but obviously adding that into the parlay. He has had at least 15. He's averaging almost 20 a game this year. He's had at least 18 in every game, so we like him to just get 15 against the Bulls tonight. And then obviously the last one is Zaire Williams. The game out in Portland, we like him to get 8+ points tonight against the Portland Trailblazers. He scored 8 in every game on this year. And obviously, Portland, not the greatest team, but, 2 teams that are pretty much kind of struggling to start out. obviously points got to come from somewhere. And, Zaire Williams kind of being one of their key role guys, I kind of like him to get 8 points tonight. So those are the 3 guys we like to get on their points, as Ari typed them up right there. Kaminga, we like him to get 8+ points, Bridges to get 15, and then Zaire Williams to get 8. I put this on DraftKings. It's a 3-leg that comes out to about -106. So like I said, around that -100 +100 range for you guys, and only 3 legs. We only need these guys to score. Obviously, there are some ladder challenges from other people who, we have assists and rebounds and, all that stuff. We're just looking for these guys to put the ball in the basket. That's all we need. So obviously, this is the 3. So this is going to be the one for today. Obviously, so just trailing 1 unit. Obviously, because last night we did have a tough loss with Keldon Johnson. So and also you can see this. It is live on Twitter. Obviously, I have already pasted it. It is -106 on DraftKings right now. So I would go as soon as you guys can. Obviously, you don't want to have those lines shift throughout the day. And obviously, our Twitter, AKP Sports Talk, that is where you can find all of our plays, especially for this coming weekend. We have an EPL parlay coming up. And as well, we will be continuing the ladder challenge throughout the weekend. And then obviously, you can be seeing our posted plays for college football and the NFL this coming weekend. And speaking of that, we're going to get into some for tonight. Obviously, we have a couple games on the slate for college football tonight, but I'm taking a closer one in this Boston College and Syracuse one, and I'm taking Boston College to cover +2.5. I got it at 3, but that line has shifted to now 2.5 on some books and pretty much most all books. And look, when you look at this Boston College team, you're kind of questioning, Boston College used to be a laughing joke of college football in times they play, but when you look at this team this year, they have a top 15 rushing attack in the country. They have one of the best pass coverage defenses in the country. I just don't see how the Syracuse offense can keep up. Syracuse, one of the slower offenses in the ACC this year, only really averaging about 220 passing yards a game, not really getting their feet on the ground. They rely a lot more on their defense in terms of their defensive front with their front 4 in terms of just kind of getting to the quarterback, because they do average I think about, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 sacks a game, and 22 sacks on the season. I feel like that's kind of how they get themselves going. But when you have a Boston College offensive line that can get holes, and you have a top 10 running attack in the country with Kai Ribichow, I feel as if Boston College should be a little bit more valued in this spot. So I am taking Boston College to cover. I would sprinkle them also on the money line as well. I don't know what their current money line is at right now, but I would do half a unit on that. I just feel like the Syracuse team is going to have problems containing the run. They're not that great in terms of their run defense, but when you're facing a borderline top 10 run offense, it's going to be a long day for you to pretty much at least try to compete with a team that's pretty much draining the clock in the spot when you don't have a passing attack that's great against a pass defense that is borderline top 30, I believe, in the country. I'm not sure. I know it's somewhere around there, but obviously the secondary for the Boston College Eagles, very good. So I do like them to cover tonight. So that is my best bet for tonight, obviously in a very small slate for college football. I didn't really take a look at that other game, which is Colorado State and Wyoming. Don't really like anything. But in this one specifically, I do like Boston College to cover. That line has been moving down. I think Syracuse is a little overvalued in the spot. I think that's a great look. So we are taking Boston College to cover +2.5. And also, as well, just for the hell of it, I'm putting a half a unit on the money line. I just pretty much explained to myself why I would take it. Just, that I think it's going to be a negative game script for Syracuse. Obviously, but even though it's not really a rivalry game, obviously, these two teams are pretty much the corner in terms of the Northeast teams in the ACC, and I do like Boston College to cover in this spot. So give me Boston College, the Eagles, to cover +2.5 point spread tonight, and also sprinkle them on the money line. Ari, obviously you have some best bets for today as well. Before we get into this weekend's, what are you taking in today's Friday slate?
Yeah, I just have one play as well, and it's in the NBA Warriors Thunder. I was looking at the full game for the Warriors, but it being on. Wait, can you hear me? Just making sure. Okay, because I had the bar come up the Wi-Fi. Okay, just making sure. But it's kind of weird because Shea was ruled out for the Thunder, and so you just assume the Warriors would be a pretty big favorite being fully healthy, but they're only a 6-point favorite in the full game despite that. So I'm just taking them first have to come out strong and avoid any sort of backdoor second half, whatever. So I'm just taking them to cover first half. Obviously a fully healthy Warriors team. We've seen Curry post multiple 40-point games. The Thunder have been scrappy as well, but obviously missing Shea is a huge piece of that offense. We're going to see guys like Dort and Isaiah Joe, and guys like that step into his role as a scorer. Maybe Chet has a little bit bigger of a role of a scorer as well in this one. But I like the Warriors to come out strong in this opening NBA. What is it called again? The tournament, in-season tournament, whatever. Yeah, I like them to come out strong here and at least cover first half -3. I feel more confident in the full game just because the line does seem short given the injuries. But just give me them in the first half here with Golden State.
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, obviously you mentioned that line is a little funky, and that line actually has been moving in the opposite direction. I saw it at Golden State open at -5.5, so to see it go down to 6, it's kind of surprising, even though you mentioned the news of SGA already being ruled out for this contest tonight. So maybe there's some, reverse line movement or something. We don't know what's going on, but, we're just going to take the Warriors to cover the first half. We think the Warriors got off to a good start as well, and I like that play, first half -3. I like that play as well. So we hope for a 2-0 tonight, as well as the ladder challenge for today that has already been posted. But we're going to get now into the weekend, obviously big weekend with college football and NFL on Sunday. But here are my 3 best plays for tomorrow, which is Saturday. First, we're going to go over to, I believe this game is in Austin, if I'm not mistaken. Kansas State and Texas. I'm taking the Wildcats to cover. This did open at 4.5. Went down before. I've seen some books at 3.5. But I like taking it out of the 4.5. And when you look at this Texas team, right, and they're a great team. Don't get me wrong; they have talent. They're coming off of one of their, you can say, more defensive wins of the year. Beating a good team, not really a good, decent team in BYU, but obviously the big question is quarterback, and that is kind of, I guess the overlooking question is who is going to be playing quarterback for the Texas Longhorns this weekend. And obviously, there's been rumors of, obviously Malik Murphy, they may stick with him and how they like, and how, the offense has been running, with Malik Murphy. But, obviously that offense pretty much runs through Jonathan Brooks. And, it's pretty much kind of been the Jonathan Brooks show. And I feel like, against this K-State team, right, who, does not have I would say, the greatest in terms of run defense. But, I feel like after they came off a big win against, a good, against a TCU team that pretty much struggled last night against Texas Tech, I do like them to cover the spot on the road, especially, 2 teams coming off pretty much big blowouts, essentially, Texas coming off a 29-point win, K-State coming off a 38-point win. I think K-State covering this line is great. I've seen this line go all the way down to 3.5 now. I think the quarterback concerns for Texas will play a factor, and obviously kind of neutralizing the box and kind of stopping the run at all costs is going to be what the K-State defensive focus is going to be. So I do like them to cover in this spot with kind of a negative game script in this game, but probably going under as well. And speaking of a game that's going to go under, oh brother, Iowa Northwestern. Just don't even have to really do much research than just thinking about Iowa and Northwestern. These 2 offenses are absolutely abysmal. These are some of the worst Power 5 offenses I have ever seen. I mean, you have Iowa, right? And they got Cade McNamara, the quarterback from Michigan, in the transfer portal. And that was supposed to be the fix, offensively for them. And obviously, there's a lot more issues, with Brian Ferentz and, all those issues that have gone for Iowa. Iowa's only scored over 30 points once this season. and that was against a Western Michigan team that is really bad. Other than that, not even encompassed 30. I don't think their offense can do that much, especially against a very good Northwestern defense that is very underrated in my opinion. They can stop the pass, and that's kind of how Iowa kind of starts to get the momentum going with McNamara. They got to get something moving, but it's going to be hard when you're your offense, can't really do anything against a good defense that is good against the pass, and then vice versa, Northwestern's offense is absolutely abysmal, and they're playing obviously a very good defense that limits points. Doesn't let you get in the end zone. So I think this game is just going to be really bad. Obviously, I think this game is at Wrigley, if I'm not mistaken. So obviously, it's a neutral site, and we know how Wrigley is. Obviously, sometimes it gets windy, especially around this time of year. All the weather factors, just take the under. It's going to be a really ugly game. And then finally, Ari, I know you're loving this play, but this is just a play that I have to make because it's just a smart one. No backing, no Pac-12 associations whatsoever as a Coug myself. But I am taking Arizona tonight. I think they do cover the 3. Obviously, that line has moved to 2.5 on some books tomorrow night's game against UCLA. And this is a really bad spot for UCLA. I don't think their defense will be able to pretty much contain themselves against the Arizona offense that has pretty much, kind of taken the Pac-12 by storm these recent weeks. Obviously, with Fafita kind of being the centerpiece, and obviously, Ari, you know a lot more about this than I do, but from what I've seen recently from this Arizona offense, you probably know a lot more, but we've seen a resurgence, and obviously whether it was the quarterback change, obviously subbing out Delora for Fafita or whatever, obviously it's turned into the gold mine that this team needed, and coming off of just great wins, back-to-back wins, against Wazoo and Oregon State at home and on the road. Now they welcome a UCLA team that has struggled to really get their offense moving in some games. And Arizona, obviously one of the better teams right now, stopping the run. I think that this team could obviously all out win this game. And I know we had a little bit of a chat before Arizona's chances of winning this game tomorrow. So I like them at +3. That line has moved to +2.5. And, when it goes to +2.5, kind of thinking, well, the underdog is probably going to have a good chance of winning this game. So, as I am also taking Boston College tonight, tomorrow, I am also taking Arizona to win this game full out on the money line tomorrow. I don't know what the current line is, but I believe that line will probably move somewhere in Arizona's favor, probably by tomorrow evening. So those are my 3 plays for tomorrow. I like K-State to cover as well. I think they can do what other teams can't, and that's stop Jonathan Brooks. I like that Iowa Northwestern under. It's just gonna be an ugly game in Wrigley. 2 teams that are very slow offensively, very good defensively. And then Arizona +3. Obviously, this is a bad spot for Chip Kelly's team. Coming to Arizona and one of the pretty much the hottest offenses in the country right now that's pretty much being slept on. And just how they have played in terms of how their defense has been pretty much cohesive throughout this stretch. Especially after a tough loss in the Rose Bowl against USC, I like Arizona to cover. I also like them on the full game money line. Those are my 3 best bets for tomorrow. Ari, what are you looking at for college football this weekend?
Yeah, so I have 2 plays. I'll start off with Kentucky, and this is mostly a fade of Mississippi State, who I just haven't seen enough of to believe that they're very good. I'm just going first half for Kentucky just to win by 3.5, just to kind of get off to a strong start. I mean, Kentucky, they started off, I think it was 5-0. They've lost their last 3, but 2 of them have come against ranked teams, Georgia and Tennessee, and they had a close loss against Tennessee last week. So I like them in the bounce back spot here. They're at Mississippi State, so it's a tough environment, but I just haven't seen enough from the Mississippi State offense to believe in them. So I like Kentucky to cover the -2.5 in the first half. And then we have what's probably the game of the week, I would say, in between Washington and USC for the most part. The over-under is 76.5, which I think is the highest I've seen all year, at least close to it. We've seen some low 70s, but I don't know if I've ever seen a mid 70s for over-under, which goes to tell you about these defenses. Obviously, we could see a record for most missed tackles combined between the 2 teams in the game in this one. But USC is coming off. They barely surviving against Cal with the 2-point conversion. They won 50-49. That was to avoid a 3-game losing streak after they got crushed by Notre Dame and then lost in the last second field goal against Utah. And then Washington just keeps finding ways to win, but they have not looked good the last couple of weeks against Arizona State and Stanford. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, they obviously survived against ASU a couple weeks ago in what was a super, super ugly game. And then Stanford, the offense looked better, and then the defense is back to what it was before. So, obviously, it's the over under is where it's at. But at the end of the day, I just trust the Huskies' offense a little bit more, and I trust the Huskies' defensive line and pass rush more than the USC. I think that's the difference for me here. Is I think they can get more pressure on Penix than USC can get pressure. Or I think they get more pressure on Williams. Sorry, than USC can get pressure on Penix. I think that's the difference here for me in this one. I do think it's going to be somewhat back and forth for the most part of the game. It's obviously going to be a marquee win for whoever can come out on top in this one. But I like the Huskies to cover the 3 points and get maybe a 6 to 10 point win, something along those lines here in this one, and come out on top over USC.
Yeah, I do like that Kentucky play in the first half. Obviously, this Kentucky team, had a little bit of a rough stretch, but you mentioned had a little bit of a tough schedule coming down the stretch, and I don't believe in this Mississippi State team at all. Obviously, since the unfortunate passing of Mike Leach, rest in peace to his soul, this team hasn't really been the same. And whether it is the coaching changes or the coaching carousel or the offensive personnel that have come in since that, it's just not really clicking right now. And I definitely agree with you. I do like Kentucky to cover right now for the first half. I don't know. I don't really know the full game right now. I just like Kentucky to lead by 3 at halftime as well. So I do like you there. And you know me. I understand where you're coming. Me personally, putting all bias aside, I would do this play. Obviously, I do think that they are the better team. Obviously, in the spot, USC. I think they're frauds. After last week, it confirmed it. They could not. They had to escape with a win against Cal, and it was just a really awful game. Just whether it was from the start with the protest, obviously nothing against that, but just I've never seen anything like that. And obviously all the way to Caleb Williams kind of playing himself out of the Heisman conversation. It really just was an ugly game, and now you have to go play a top 5 team in the country at home, who obviously is also in the Heisman conversation. And Ari, you mentioned how bad these defenses are, but I think we have to kind of credit how good these offenses are. That's kind of why this line is so high. I mean, you credit how great these offenses are. Obviously, UW having the best offense in college football right now. USC, obviously, with Caleb Williams and all the stars that they're over there in LA, obviously very star-studded, talented offense for them. So that's kind of why this line is super, super high. My only play is the over. I think this is going to be one of those classics under the lights. Obviously, it's on ABC for a reason. They know that this is the game. A lot of people in the Pac-12 have circled before the season. Obviously, now with USC's a little bit of a struggle as of late. It's not as exciting considering everyone had USC potentially being a contender for the playoff, but now that we have the other team as a contender, it's still going to be very exciting. So I do like the over. I got it at 75.5. The fact that Odie went up is just telling that this is going to be one of those games that you mentioned. We're going to see so many missed tackles. We're going to see so many deep throws from both sides with Penix and Caleb Williams. I think it's and I mean, if I was a fan of that school in Seattle, I would take them. But unfortunately, I just can never do that. My morals would never allow me to do that. So I wouldn't take any over. I think that is a safe play. But I think that can be a nice 5-0 card for Saturday. Obviously, we have some great plays from both sides. But obviously, we know why we're here. Sunday, NFL. Big time. We have some games on Sunday. Obviously, we are entering Week 9. It's already crazy, Ari. Week 9 of the NFL season. Who would have thought? We're already here. And these are my 3 best bets. First, I'm taking the Eagles -3 against the Cowboys. I think this Cowboys team last week just showed us how they are frauds because they only beat up against bad teams in terms of the pick sixes and the turnovers and forcing turnovers and all that stuff. I kind of compared the and this is no disrespect to Cowboy and their fans, but they basically are kind of bullies. When you really think about the Dallas Cowboys this year, they only beat up on the bad teams and forcing turnovers and stuff like that. And you see the scoreboard and you're like, oh my God, this team is amazing. But then you see them struggle against, like teams like the Cardinals and, teams that they've lost to. And you say, well, what are these teams? These teams are frauds. And stuff like that. And now they're facing pretty much I'd say this is one of the biggest rivalries right now, if not the biggest rivalry in the NFL between the Eagles and Cowboys. And obviously the Eagles, look, they came off a almost scary upset in Washington. Obviously their offense couldn't really get going in the first half, just not really that much in terms of the run game. And then obviously we saw the immersion of A.J. Brown with those ridiculous catches in the second half. I think the Eagles in this spot are really great. Obviously, one, they're playing at Philly, so it's always hard to play at Lincoln Financial. Two, I feel like for this Cowboys team, going on a road, especially the way they won last week, forcing all those pick sixes, I don't know if they have that same luck, against obviously Jalen Hurts, who has, faced this team many times. He knows how to beat them, and I think that. And especially with the Cowboys point differential, there's a system in here. Cowboys with a really high point differential. I think they're in like the 70s or the 80s. Obviously, I think it's just telling us that, this team definitely are a little bit fraudulent in terms of, how their offense is going. And now they have to go play one of the better run defense or just defenses in the country, and the Eagles on the road. I can't back the Cowboys in this spot. I'm taking the Eagles -3. And then obviously I like the Vikings in this spot. I believe they were plus money when I checked. I don't know if they weren't.
Oh, maybe no, yeah, they're right.
Yeah, I'm about to say I believe they were plus money. So Vikings to cover. I do like them to cover this Sunday at +3.5 against the Falcons. Look, and everyone's saying, "Oh my God, Kirk Cousins went down. Who's going to be their quarterback?" Okay, it's Josh Dobbs. Okay, it's not horrible. He's not horrible. We saw what he did.
It's not Dobbs this week though, right?
Oh yeah, obviously, it's going to be Dobbs in the future, but. Yeah. In this spot, you just cannot back you cannot back the Falcons. And obviously they just lost Drake London for the weekend, who's now been ruled out. Desmond Ridder already is not a great quarterback, and the Vikings defense has been sneakily keeping them in these games and we kind of mentioned. Obviously, that game against the Niners, the Vikings defense pretty much kept them in that game, and pretty much we go back.
It's Heineke starting for Atlanta.
Oh, it is? Oh, that's right. They did bench Ridder.
Right.
But anyways, I don't believe in that offense in Atlanta. Atlanta's offense is very, very horrible. It's pretty much near the bottom. And like I said, the Vikings defense, one of the more sneakier defenses. They know how to turn over the ball. And, as of late, they've been playing really well, obviously, with big wins against the Niners and the Packers on the road. Obviously, despite losing their quarterback and all whatnot, I do like the Vikings to cover in this spot. I think that even with the quarterback changes for both teams, I just feel like I just cannot trust this Viking. I cannot trust the Falcons offense to really be consistent each week to week. And I like the Vikings to cover in this spot. So give me the Vikings to cover. That line was at 4.5, so that line already moved down to 3.5. I would take it at 3.5 and maybe not more because when it gets down to 3, it gets a little finicky. And then also same for the Eagles. I would take it all the way up to 4. Right now it's at 3. I don't think it's going to be moving that much. I don't think it's moved at all pretty much throughout the week as one of the best games of the week in terms of, just star value. And then finally, we're going to go to one of the more, not, I wouldn't say controversial, but, impactful games. That's the best word of the slate on Sunday night between the Bengals and the Bills. Obviously, this is the infamous rematch of that Monday Night Football game back earlier this year where we saw the unfortunate tragedy almost of Damar Hamlin. So this is the rematch now in Cincy. Obviously, we saw the first rematch in the postseason when the Bills hosted the Bengals, and we saw the Bengals pretty much just go into Buffalo and beat on that Bills team. And we were a lot of people were kind of I guess caught off guard because the Bills were obviously had the home field advantage, and it was a snowy game, so a lot of people were expecting the Bengals team to come out struggling, but they looked like the better team, and they looked like they were more ready in that spot. And I feel like they're going to be more ready in this spot. So I am taking the Bengals in this spot. I'm taking a -2. That line went down, but I think that's one reverse line movement. And 2, I cannot back this Bills team week to week. I think they're very inconsistent, even though I do want to take the Bills, obviously, just with the Damar Hamlin situation and everything that happened last year and all that stuff. Joe Burrow, after week 6, I think he's like 21 and 8 against the spread. Very good numbers. pretty much saying after week 6, that's when the Bengals start to cook. And I think they just got their stride back. I think this is a great spot, -2 at home in this game where there's going to be a lot of emotions. There's going to be a lot of talking. And obviously, I did see a little snippet. Tyra Boyd, he did mention earlier this week that a lot of the Bills players were saying that if there was no snow, that the Bills would have won. So, obviously the Bengals may be using that as a little bit of momentum, saying, well, if they actually really think that, well, why don't they come do it and beat us at our place on Sunday? So I think the Bengals in this spot are great. Obviously, I would take it all the way down to 2 if you might as well, if it does go down anymore, I just take the Bengals on the money line. I think a more confident play is the Bengals just winning outright. I just feel like the Bengals do get the victory at home. I just cannot believe in this this Bills team from week to week. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be playing this week, but Leonard Fournette, obviously, big name for the Bills. He just signed with them, so he's going to be coming in soon. But I don't think he's going to be, obviously playing on Sunday. But that doesn't matter. I still like the Bengals to cover in the spot at home. Obviously, very emotional game, with just everything that happened last year. And obviously, a lot of fantasy owners from last year who were in the championship. Remember, obviously, this was the final game of the championship week for a lot of fantasy leagues. So, obviously, a lot of emotion just aside of that in terms of that. But those are my 3 plays of this weekend. I like the Eagles to cover. I think the Cowboys are definitely going to get exposed again for just being America's bullies. I like I like the Vikings to cover. I think this defense is sneaky enough to handle the Atlanta Falcons with or without Desmond Ridder, or whoever the quarterback is. Doesn't matter. This offense is still pretty anemic. Doesn't really get the ball moving down the field, and they just lost one of their better pass catchers in Drake London for this weekend. He was ruled out with an injury, so that just gives me more incentive to take the Vikings to cover. With the Falcons losing one of their better pass catchers, and then the Bengals -2. Joe Burrow, one of the better teams after week 6, and that Bengals squad, I like them to cover -2. If it does go any lower, just take them on the money line. I feel like that's a great play as well. So those are my 3 for Sunday. Ari, I know you told me earlier that you were conflicting with one of my plays. Please not be the Eagles.
No, it is the Bills on Sunday night, but I'll start off with the morning pick, the Seahawks +6. I just think this is a one-score game either way. I think this line is too big. Obviously, this is one of the marquee games of the day. We have a handful of them, with the Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, Dolphins. We have this game. We have obviously Eagles, Cowboys, and some other good games. But I think that this is a one-score game, and obviously, technically the Ravens could win by 7. It's a one-score game, and I lose this bet. But I'm willing to bet here that it's a little bit closer than that. I think this spread should be closer to 2 or 3, and obviously you could say the spread's big for a reason. Ravens are going to win big, and you can use the argument, but I think this is going to be a little bit closer. I think the Seahawks have a better chance to win than what the odds are showing it just outright. We've seen Lamar Jackson. He's had some big games. In the blowout win over the Lions, but it's just been inconsistency overall as well. And, I think the Seahawks secondary is, it's going to be a tough test, obviously, on the road, against Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Odell, if he has a big play. So it's going to be a tough test, but it should be the debut of also Leonard Williams for the pass rush for the Seahawks, which obviously only helps them get to the quarterback. And obviously that's a big part of Lamar's game is kind of doing your best to keep him contained in the pocket. But then on the other side, the Ravens defense is going to be a tough test for Geno and his recent kind of turnover issues over the past few weeks or so. So I think it's going to be even more important to get the run game going with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet to kind of open up the passing game. So I think it should be a fun kind of contrasting kind of play styles on both sides of the ball for both teams. So it should be a fun one. I think +6 is too much at the end of the day, for the Ravens to cover. Then I'm going to a bit more of an ugly one. Patriots -2.5. First game for Washington without Chase Young and Sweat. So that should obviously a big knock against the pass rush, obviously, for the Commanders losing those 2. Patriots, I think, I'm not going to say it's a Mac Jones legacy game or anything, but I think he's going to have a good enough game for the Patriots to cover here. We could see a decent game as well for Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott in the run game as well. So I think this is mostly just a fate of the Washington defense, coming off trading who they traded. And then also on the other side, I think that, the biggest issue for the Commanders offense all year has been protecting Sam Howell. And, Bill Belichick and the Stevens is kind of known for schematically to be able to kind of, confuse quarterbacks, especially younger quarterbacks and stuff. So I think we're going to see a lot of pressure as well on Sam Howell in this game all afternoon. With those two together, I like the Patriots to cover the 2.5 here. And then the one game that we're on opposite sides of, the Bills money line. Obviously the big concern for the Bills all year has been the defense. They traded for Sue Douglas at the deadline. He should be playing this one, so that'll help their secondary at least a little bit. You're not going to completely shut down Joe Burrow, especially with the role he's been on the past, 2 or 3 weeks or so. But I didn't think that, Josh Allen's off the injury report, so he should be fully healthy despite the scare in the last game. With his, I think it's elbow, I believe, was the injury he was dealing with. The elbow or shoulder, one of those two was his injury. But he should be a full go. I'm not. I think Fournette's playing as well, so that should at least. I think he'll be better than Tavius Murray was in that role. On the goal line and kind of the early downs, complimenting James Cook in that backfield. Again, it's a statement game for both teams. Whoever comes out on top, in terms of where they stand in the AFC. And like you said, the Bengals Joe Burrow dominated the Bills in the playoffs last year in that one. And I like the Bills to kind of get not really revenge. It's only a regular season, obviously, but I like him to get back in this one. And, the Bills have been shaky the past month. Even the 2 wins, they've been, obviously super close to one score. But I just like the Bills to get right in this one on the road, kind of a statement one where Josh Allen just has one of his performances that, we saw last year. We haven't really seen a extremely dominant game, I don't believe, from him this year. He's been good. He's been really good, but not one of his elite games. I think this is one where he can step up in this one and lead the Bills to a win. And I think it's going to be a 1-score game, one way or another.
Yeah, okay. I see where you're coming from. I respect it, obviously. First, obviously, with the Seattle Seahawks, look, I'm obviously going to take my Hawks in that pick. Obviously, the line has been pretty steady at 6 or around 6.5 all week. Obviously, I feel like Seattle is definitely a little bit underestimated in this spot, obviously, coming, obviously off of a tough, gritty win at home against the Browns last week. Now going to pretty much, I guess, their hardest test of the season, going to M&T Bank Stadium to face the Ravens. Obviously, Lamar Jackson and, how that offensive how that offense just absolutely just operates right now with him. And obviously, we would see a healthy J.K. Dobbins, obviously, but, they have Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, the 2 tandem in the backfield. I feel like Seattle can cover the spot. I feel like that 6 number is a little too high as well, but, it could be a touchdown win for the Ravens. It could be, field goal, whatever happens. I feel like the Seattle Seahawks at +6 is a great number. And then you mentioned the Patriots. Look, we talk about this Commanders team. They sold. They're not interested in winning this year. They got rid of their best 2 defensive guys, and Montez Sweat and Chase Young now on their new rosters. And now they got to play the Patriots on the road. Even with Eric Bieniemy and how that offense, has pretty much resurged for the Commanders. I don't like them in that spot. Having to go to New England, especially after trading all your best players away. I like the Patriots to cover that 2.5 point spot. And then I see your point. I just can't trust Josh Allen. I this year, especially in terms of whether it's him keeping the ball, whether it's him, just making the right throws, the most accurate throws, especially against the Bills pass rush that's going to get like a Bengals pass rush that's going to get in his face. And when Josh Allen is under pressure, he's not the greatest quarterback in my opinion. So, and this pick kind of goes along with my pick about the Bills this year, just kind of being a little bit underachievers. They're 5-3 right now, and for both these teams, it's kind of a must win because the Bengals don't want to be 4-4, heading into the latter half of the season, and same for the Bills. You don't want to be 5-4, especially both teams being in loaded divisions this year. Both teams need to win, but in this spot, I like the home team just because, home crowd around them and, just as well in this spot, I feel like Joe Burrow just knows how to play against them team. So obviously we have some similar plays, but obviously one contradicting play for that Sunday night game. But obviously we're going to do a full recap just from Friday to Sunday real quick. So first with me, I have Boston College tonight covering that plus 2.5 point spread. Then Ari, he has the Warriors in the first half tonight -3. Going to tomorrow's slate for Saturday, my slate, I have Kansas State to cover that +4 spread. I have Iowa and Northwestern in an ugly game at Wrigley Field. That game is going to go under. I had that at 31.5, but that line already got moved down to 30.5. I take it there. And then I like Arizona to cover that line. I think has some books at +2.5. I like it +3 as well. I also like Arizona to cover the full game money line as well, potentially with a little sprinkle. Also, same for Boston College as well from tonight. I like them on the money line for a little sprinkle. And then obviously Ari's Saturday bets. He has Kentucky covering that first half spread, which right now is -2.5. He thinks the Kentucky Wildcats got up to a substantial lead against the Mississippi State. Against Mississippi State, obviously not the same team after Mike Leach, former head coach, rest in peace, passed away. And then he has the Cougs, not the Cougs. I wish he had the Cougs. He has the Huskies -3 tomorrow night against the Trojans down in the Rose Bowl. Obviously, very high-scoring game, as a lot of people predict. Both teams, have some concerns in the secondary, but a lot more concern for USC. He thinks the Huskies should cover that 3-point spread. And then obviously for Sunday's slate, my 3 bets, I have the Eagles covering that -3 spread against the fraudulent Cowboys. I have the Vikings +3.5 against offense that has struggled all year in Atlanta. And then I have the Bengals -2 against their Suns and the Bills. And then obviously going to Ari's best bets, he has the Seahawks to cover against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens at +6. He has the Patriots to cover that -2.5 point spread at home against the Commanders team that traded almost pretty much all of their stars on defense. And then he has the Bills on the money line and a little bit of a plus money upset on Sunday night. Look, other than that Sunday night game, I think we have a nice sweep on the weekend. Obviously, you can find all of these plays on AKP Sports Talk. We'll be posting all of our plays only for tonight, only obviously on Twitter. You can also find my ladder challenge for today. Obviously, Saturday, we're going to be having all of our plays posted as soon as we get up in the morning. By 8:30 local time, Pacific time, we'll have all of our plays for Saturday's slate, and then same for Sunday. Obviously there is an early game on Sunday with the Chiefs and Dolphins playing in Germany, but we are not tailing. We don't have any of those. We don't have any picks in that game. Obviously, my prior pick would have been the Chiefs -2.5, but that line's been moving down, and I don't really like when that's pretty much down to a -1 or almost a pick 'em. That's when it gets a little sweaty. So I'm avoiding that, but obviously, Ari, we have a pretty loaded card for this weekend, and you can find all of our plays down below there, AKP Sports Talk. But Ari, if you don't have anything else, that is Ari. I'm Kriya. Thank you guys for coming to another episode. We will see you guys on Monday for the full recap of full NBA, college football, and NFL weekend. Thank you guys for tuning in, and also don't forget with one sport ending, another one starts, and obviously we are just counting down the days from college basketball. So next Tuesday, obviously, with the tip-off for some games, obviously.
I think it's Monday, isn't it?
I thought it was Monday. I don't know what. I think it's Tuesday. I believe it's. Let me double check real quick. Yeah, some games tipping off Monday, some games tipping off on Tuesday. So don't forget Monday. We also may have some best bets for Monday for some college basketball fans out there. So as we wrapped up the MLB season, we go on to another sport, and obviously college basketball right around the corner. So that's going to be a very exciting time. But that's been Ari. I'm Korea. We will see you guys on Monday for the full recap and a preview of the college basketball season. See you later, guys.